Welcome to Live at 5:55 with Joseph. Hope you're having an awesome day today. And today's subject I find to be very interesting. So, one of the ways that you can really accelerate your life is to learn to listen to that still small voice, which is your intuition. And so I have a listener question tonight. Somebody wrote in, they asked, how do you tell the difference between intuition and those other voices in our head? And so I want to talk about that tonight on live. And I want to start by doing so is by, intuition is one of our six mental faculties. Our six mental faculties, easy for me to say, our imagination, intuition, our will, our perception, our memory, and our reason. And our mental faculties are the interface between us and infinite intelligence. Our intuition is that natural knowing that comes from within. It's that still small voice, the voice of truth. And Gandhi said the voice of truth is as loud as our willingness to listen. I really like that. The voice of truth is as loud as our willingness to listen. And we all have perfect intuition. We may not be aware of it, but we all have perfect intuition in our life. We may not yet know or recognize its voice, or we just may ignore its voice. But we all come embedded with perfect intuition. And so, based on the question that was asked is how do you tell the difference between the voice of intuition and then the voice of the other voices that are going on in our head, those things that are giving us direction and such. And one of the biggest ways I tell people to do this is your paradigms, those voices in your head. They'll be loud, they'll be booming, that's not right for you. Who do you think you are? Things like that. Our intuition will come in calmness, where when we find the calm, when we find the calmness around us, when we find it get still, get quiet, is where we will hear that voice of intuition speaking to us. So for me personally, I get a feeling inside, right inside my chest here, that comes with a direction. And I'll give you an example of this. A few years back, I was riding motorcycles from Iowa, or quite a few years ago now. I was in Iowa at the time, and we rode motorcycles. And we went all through Nebraska, all out through Colorado and everything. And we were going into Moab, Utah. We were going to tour there and then come back. And the day we were going to Moab, we had about a 7-hour drive or ride on the bikes. And we added about 3 hours to it. So it brought to about 10 hours. And I had multiple times that day where this voice, like I would hear that feeling with a voice, with a direction, and it said, just stop. I had multiple things happen that way for insights. Like we ran into the same person, happened to run into him 3 different times. And he's going, man, that's a long way to go. And those insights will happen like that. It'll come as an inspiration. It'll come as a fleeting thought. It'll come while you're sleeping in a dream. Intuition speaks to us in multiple ways. But the big thing is that we learn to listen, to open up, to listen, to hear its direction in our life. So anyway, so we're going to Moab, and now we're getting to the point, it's about 7:30 at night, and I had to hold my hand up like this to block the sun out of my eyes because it was like right there in front of me. Now, again, by this time I had three of those intuitive thoughts like that, or it came from outside or from inside here, and it had that direction. It said, just stop. But I was hell-bent that I was making it to Moab that night, so I just kept going. Now, let me set the scene for you. Here I am cruising down a 2-lane highway with my buddy behind me on his motorcycle. I got the cruise control set at 70 miles an hour so I can hold my hand up like this. I had the radio going. And out of nowhere, a deer jumps into the road. Now, I wasn't wearing a helmet. I had a thin nylon jacket on and a thin pair of blue jeans because it was hot weather, so you get some air. And so at 70 miles an hour, I'm cruising. This deer jumps in the road. And if he'd have stopped, I'd have whizzed by him. But instead, he lunged and came right into the side of me, taking me into a shallow ditch where I slid across the ditch. I went across a gravel road back into a ditch and stopped about 2.5 foot from wood fence posts with razor blade wire going. So now I'm down on the ground. The only house in the whole area was kitty corner from where we were, and it happened to be the township EMS guy or the county EMS guy. And so an ambulance was on the site in 5 minutes. All that happening, the only injuries I sustained is I broke my leg. They had to reconstruct my shoulder and reattach my bicep muscle up on the top. And I totaled my motorcycle. I ended up like getting to Moab that night in the back of an ambulance. And I remember being in that ambulance, and I remember making a solid oath that I will follow that voice to the best of my ability for the rest of my life. And it came booming. I mean, I gave you 3 of the signals there with talking to a guy. A little while later, you know, where we were riding, I ended up coming into an area where I ended up coming into an area where a bird hit my windshield and bounced way off in the air. You know, about a half hour after that, I had this little raccoon or something run into my back wheel and bounce off. So I had all of these insights. Intuition will speak to us in any way it has to. But we have to be willing to listen. And I remember the last sign I got before the deer is we're riding. Again, I got to cruise at 70 miles an hour. I keep having to put my hand up to block the sun. And we came across a sign that said, last bed and breakfasts to Moab. And that was probably a little over an hour and 15, hour and a half away from Moab. And I remember that voice going, stop, 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 stop. And in my head, I go, no, damn it, we're making it to Moab. And I was just, like I said, hell-bent on making it no matter what. Now, if I'd have listened to that, I'd have saved my bike. They ended up taking the totaled motorcycle, shipping it up to Salt Lake City. And the owner of the shop called me and he said, I just want to understand, you were actually operating this motorcycle when it got in the accident. And I said, yes, sir. And he said, man, there's something about you, because I've never seen a motorcycle in this condition that I've been able to talk to the operator of it. You know, and we went back out there 2 days after, because I was in Moab and we had to stay there a couple of days to get me a flight back so they could do all the surgeries and all that. And we ended up taking a ride back out there. And if you'd have went 100 yards either way from where I went down, there was those really deep ditches with the huge boulders in them that I would have went sailing down into with no helmet on, you know, at 70-mile-an-hour road speed. That told me there's a purpose for my life. And that told me in order to get to that purpose, I have to be willing to open up and listen to that intuition. I have to start listening for that voice. You know, one of my favorite quotes on intuition is by Florence Shin, and it's, intuition is a spiritual faculty and does not explain, but simply points the way. So if you're looking at how to identify further, even more so, into your intuition, remember, find the calm around you. You know, get out of the chaos, get out of the noise, get out of the, Michael Singer talks in his book, The Untethered Soul, about the purpose of our mind, that the purpose of our mind is to help us solve complex problems. But so often our mind runs our entire life. It tells us what we can do, what we can't do, why we can't do it, the limitations, all of the paradigms, patterns, conditioning, all that stuff come up in our thinking. If we can break through that, and one of the ways I did that is when that noise was going, I would just go, stop, really loud. Usually I'd be in my truck. But I would just interrupt it like that, like stop. And then I would start praying. I would start thinking of what I wanted to think of. I would start putting those thoughts in there so that I could start to lower this voice, the voices in my head, to start elevating, being able to hear my intuition. Another thing you can do is if you're hearing things booming, 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 that's typically going to be your head chatter, the chatter of the thoughts in your head. Intuition will come in calmness. It'll come in subtlety, but it will always have a direction for you. So for tonight, if you could just lean into that, or maybe if you have a story on where intuition has served you, or where intuition came up and spoke to you and you decided not to listen to it. And what was the result? What was the lesson you learned in doing that? Because it's never good or bad or right or wrong. It's just we learn lessons as we go, the whole life's lessons. So, and share a little bit about what was that like for you? Either way, when did you listen to your intuition and it led you exactly or beyond where you wanted to go? And then where did you not listen to it, where you feel you heard it and you didn't listen to it? And what was the lesson you learned in not listening to it? So take that on as a challenge tonight. And just as you go through your evening, try to find a little bit of time and just find the calmness around you. And ask a question and just listen. Or just listen for what your intuition has to say to you. You'll hear it. You'll do so in the calmness and in the quiet around you. So if this interests you and you want to learn more about this and some other tools that can really help you just ignite your life, next week, November 2nd, starts the Abundance Mindset Masterclass. It's 4 days, Monday through Thursday, from November 2nd through the 5th. It's at 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. and we're usually a little bit short of that. Depending on questions we open up to every night. But it's every night next week at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. And we're going to go through things. I walked through them yesterday, but we're going to start right out with going into that abundant thinking. What does that look like? You know, what kind of actions do people living in wealth and abundance in all areas of their life? Whether it be relationship, finances, their career, their vocation, their time and money freedom. What does that look like to live abundantly? And what do abundant people, how do they think? And what actions do they take versus the masses? And then we're going to go into that dynamic visioning where we're going to open the door up on day 2 of what's possible for you in your life. And then day 3, we're going to go into those pesky paradigms, how they hold us back, how you can identify when it's coming from a paradigm in your life. And then on Thursday, the top secret day, is when we talk about those tools to help you walk away being able to make those shifts in your life with some really, really powerful tools. So you're not going to want to miss this. And I put the link in the post tonight. It's also on here at the ifgtcoach.com/abundance-mindset. And it will be 4 hours that you will spend it with a lot of power, a lot of insights, a lot of new learnings in your life. See, nobody's perfect. So I hope to see you there. Now, here's the thing. You have to register in order to attend. And by registering, you get to join the group that it's going to be involved in. You get to download a free workbook, and you get to listen to all 4 of the replays. So if there's a day you can't make the entire thing, or you can't make it at 7 because you have something else going on, you don't miss out completely. By registering, you still have the option to go back and listen to the replay. So click on that link, get yourself registered, get your workbook, get your spot all set now. Take a step into it. You know, when we get off this phone, when we're off of the live tonight, just sit back and say, is this something for me? And listen. This is a great lesson to open up your intuition and listen to hear if it is. And if it is, then I want to lean into you to take an action into creating a life that you truly desire and you deserve. So have an awesome night tonight. God bless everybody. And I look forward to talking to you tomorrow. Good night.